This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Russian indictments are good news for Trump. With us this evening, Dr. Gerard Lameiro, the author of the new book, More Great News for America. Dr. Lameiro, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
It's great to be with you.
Tell us about the new book that just came out.
Well, More Great News for America is a takeoff on my previous book. My fourth book was called Great News for America. It came out January 2016, and it made 10 stunning predictions for a historic and critical presidential election in 2016. 9 out of the 10 predictions I made came true, and they were pretty dramatic. And as you know, it was a dramatic election. So now I've come up with a new book which gives my predictions for the next year or two in the United States, and even gives a forward-looking early forecast for the next presidential election. It's quite a book. It also goes into two things that have been asked constantly around the country, and that is, why were the polls so wrong in 2016, and why were my forecasts so right? Believe it or not, I predicted every state that Donald Trump would carry. And that was a whole lot better forecast in the Electoral College than most people gave, because most people gave it to Hillary Clinton.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lameiro. Everything you're saying is so fascinating. I want to get to this issue of Russian indictments, but actually I want to get back to a little bit of what you just said. Tell us about one prophecy you made that turned out to be true.
Well, for one thing, that a person would be elected to president that was actually conservative, regardless of what party he was from or what he called himself or herself, that it would be a conservative president, because I felt the long-term and the short-term trends that I study and use in my forecast models indicated it would be a conservative elected to the White House. And he has turned out to govern as a conservative.
Right. Now, Dr. Lameiro, why were the polls so wrong? I think part of it, too, was people were so intimidated with all this political correctness and the left demonizing people. Is it, I think a lot of people were even scared to say they were for Trump, even on the phone during the polls. That was one little reason, right?
Well, there was a certain amount of what we call Trump shyness on the part of respondents to surveys and polls, but that wasn't the fundamental problem. And by the way, the book goes into a lot of detail on the problems of the polls. There are numerous problems, but one of the biggest the biggest problems was the underlying models. Every poll is a simple, 1,000 phone calls, give or take, 1,500 phone calls, give or take, and they add up the numbers and they superimpose a model of the electorate underneath it, and then they come up with their data that they report. But unfortunately, they did not see the trends coming that I saw, and they did not use the correct underlying models, because the models that I had, the ability to see, not all are public and that, but the ones that I saw looked to me like they were using a 2012 or in some cases a 2008 model of the electorate. The electorate has changed dramatically between 2008, 2012, and 2016. My models, which generated the forecast, were based on a much more accurate model of the electorate at whole.
Right. Now, Dr. Lameiro, now your new book that's just come out, More Great News for America, you also have some prophecies in there, am I correct?
I have prediction. I call them predictions.
Okay, but in many respects, one could call you a prophet since you have so many predictions, correct? Can you share one prediction with us?
Absolutely. I predict the Republicans, and this is just one of 8 big ones, and there are a couple small ones too. I predict the Republicans will maintain their advantage in the House. I think they'll lose about 6 or 7 seats, but they will retain control of the House of Representatives, and in addition, it'll be a more conservative House than it is today.
Wow. Okay, so good news for conservatives.
Well, it's great news. More great news.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Lameiro, these Russian indictments that just happened, You say they're good news for Trump. Why?
Well, let's see what they said. There are a lot of reasons. One reason is the fact that Rod Rosenstein, when he announced them, said that any Trump participants were unwittingly talking to Russians. In other words, these Russians were clearly trying to pawn themselves off as Americans and trying to get involved with the Trump campaign, but the Trump campaign supporters, the workers, they thought they were talking to Americans. So there's absolutely no collusion in any of that. So all those indictments were absent of Trump collusion. Another reason, this particular effort by the Russians was started in 2014. In 2014, Donald Trump was not a candidate. He became a candidate in June 2015 when he decided to run for the nomination. That's also an indication there was no Trump collusion.
Right. Dr. Lameiro, you know, this is all so surreal and weird because when you listen to, you know, CNN, MSNBC, Russian collusion, you know, they've been talking about this for about a year now. It sounds like, it almost sounds like Trump and Steve Bannon and Gorka are, you know, they're hiding in a dark alley. And then Igor and Ivan show up, you know, with these capes on and hand them these yellow envelopes. And then there's these electronic magnetic things that they put into Americans' you know, brains and skulls, and then the Americans like zombies go to the polls and vote for. It's just weird. Like what is this collusion all about? And now it turns out there's some guy Dimitri that pretending he's Joe Smith. He's on Facebook. This is all so stupid.
Well, it is, and it actually seems like the old Keystone Cops, if you know about them and the history, you know, that they're just falling all over themselves, doing things foolishly. Another factor was in the indictments, and that was the fact that these people bought ads on Facebook, but most of the money they spent was after the election. And it's also silly because look at what the Russians did. A few weeks after the election, they sponsored a rally that was pro-Trump on one side of New York and anti-Trump on another side. And they had signs that said, Trump is my president in one rally and Trump is not my president in another rally. They were both sides.
And then even the people maybe involved somewhere with Trump's campaign and they're contacted by some John Smith. They don't even know that this is Dimitri, you know, whatever, or some Ivan guy from Russia, right? So what is all of this?
Well, it was just kind of a half-ways effort to influence or maybe sow some discord into the electorate to try to confuse Americans.
No, I understand what that is. What I'm saying is Mueller's and the FBI's and the media's and their preoccupation with this. Like, okay, there's some Russians on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram pretending there's someone else. I'm sure that there's other people from other countries fooling around on there too to cause chaos in America and during our elections, right?
Right. Well, part of the indictments are essentially indicting them for identity theft. They stole some Social Security numbers. They got driver's licenses. They opened PayPal accounts. They opened email accounts. They did a lot of things. They failed to register as, you know, foreigners doing political activities in the U.S. So they may have technically violated some laws. But these 13 people are in St. Petersburg, Russia. They're not going to fly to New York to get indicted by this, you know, to get face justice. They're never going to go to jail. These indictments just indicate there was nothing going on. And by the way, a significant reason I think that it was announced on a Friday afternoon was because the folks there, Mueller and others, did not want it to be seen by the American people for what it is. This looks like a joke.
And, you know, you put it on MSNBC and CNN, and they're on there, this is treason, this is treason, oh yeah, the impeachment's coming now. But besides all this talk of impeachment and treason and etc., there's nothing there. In other words, look, there's some people from Russia. They're not revealing their Russian association. They're taking on all their other names. They're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they're sowing some chaos in the U.S. election from both sides. This is it?
It looks like it. It looks like much ado about nothing. And by the way, let me tell you a little bit about forecasting, because it relates to this. Right now, the American people are getting very turned off by this investigation. They're seeing this for what it is. Now, roughly a majority of Americans believe this is well, they don't use the word witch hunt, but they think the FBI was out to help Hillary, and that this investigation is a waste of time. So I think that what's going to happen soon is they're going to have to close down this investigation. Mueller's going to have to resign and give up, because they're actually getting Americans more and more turned off on their side.
Right. And Dr. Lameiro, what's really happening here, obviously, is that the left cannot accept Trump's victory, right? That's true.
They do not want to accept it. They want to do anything they can, just like, you know, that Peter Strzok and his girlfriend were, going back and forth on text messages. They wanted an insurance policy just in case Trump were to be elected. Well, he got elected, and the insurance policy might have been Mueller's investigation.
Dr. Lameiro, why do you get so many of your predictions right? What's your secret?
Well, I really try to understand the American voter. I try to understand what they're thinking, where they are, and I try to ignore the media. I try to ignore polls unless I consider them to be rock solid in how they're designed. And so I do straight out modeling, and I use all the tools that are available to me. I have a BS, MS, PhD, and a postdoctoral fellowship from National Science Foundation, and I have a lot of tools at my disposal, mathematically, statistically, and in related sciences.
So before we go, tell our viewers a little bit more about your book that just came out, More Great News for America. Why should they get it?
Well, if they'd like to understand polls and understand how they can be right and how they can be wrong and how to tell the difference, they might want to read the book. If they want to learn more about modeling and do their own forecasting, or maybe some of the polling firms ought to buy the book to help them do their own polling and have more, have better underlying models. That's a possibility. But then beyond that, I go into the current trends, and I make predictions for what's going to happen with certain issues, with the elections. I even have a long-range forecast right now, which could change since it is very early, for the presidential election in 2020.
Well, Dr. Lameiro, not to give too much away, but just very briefly, tell us, maybe one or two more things, if you can, of some great news coming for America.
Well, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the 2020 election. Trump is solidifying his base in a major way. They like him more and more. They ignore some of the things that bothered them in the past. Some people thought he was too harsh on his tweets. But in addition, there are a lot of Democrats who are fed up to their neck with the Democratic Party and the left. They're very upset, believe it or not, with college campuses and not being able to be free. That the college campuses are shutting down conservatives and shutting down freedom of speech. And even though some of these Democrats are progressive in their thinking, they think the government is the answer for everything, they're very upset when there's no freedom of speech and they don't want to participate. So believe it or not, Trump is picking up leftist support that's not the really radical leftists, but sort of moderate leftists.
Dr. Lameiro, is Hillary Clinton finished? Is there a chance she might try again?
Oh, she has no chance of being elected, and I don't think she can get nominated even.
Right.
I do think there's a possibility that she'll face indictments.
Wow, wouldn't that be beautiful? The Glazov Gang officially would like to see Hillary Clinton in jail, just for the record. Dr. Lameiro, can you say anything about maybe a Democrat that might run?
You want me to really give you some ideas that might surprise you. I think there's a possibility no Democrat will run.
Huh.
The Democratic Party is on the verge of collapsing. Financially, they've been hurt. They've got 1 or 2 billionaires that support them, and they've got Hollywood types, the usual, but they're in disarray, organizationally, management-wise, leadership-wise.
Well, wait, let me guess. Louis Farrakhan is going to run for the Democratic Party, right? Or maybe...
I'll shock you. I thought of another one this week. I thought Mitt Romney might run as a Democrat.
Okay. Dr. Lameiro, we're out of time. What an honor and a privilege to have you here. Where can our viewers go to get more great news for America?
Well, they can go to Amazon or any bookstore. More Great News for America is available. It came out on February 21st. And they can also go to my website, read about the book, and I have 150 web pages at greatnewsforamerica.com, greatnewsforamerica.com, and they can also order the book, too.
Fantastic. Dr. Lameiro, it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Well, it's an honor to be with you. You're well known around the nation.
I hope so. And you know what? When the show's over, I'd like some predictions from you about our show, but I'm too scared to let it air right now until we hear what they really are.
Okay.
Fantastic to have you on. Thank you for watching the Glazov Gang this evening. Get More Great News for America, a book by Dr. Gerard Lameiro. Make sure to get it. And thank you for watching this evening. We'll see you soon. Good night.